important was it to have this meeting before the heads of state meeting tomorrow?
Really important. Some of the people who were in this meeting today, from human rights organisations to universities to people themselves who have been working at preventing violent extremism and the recruitment of violent extremists, had a really important voice to add. They've been in this space for a long time. They know what we as government should be looking at to prevent the 15th of March ever happening again, and they were voices that should be heard.
In terms of using algorithms and how perhaps what are some of the methods that we could...
Look, let's be really open here. This is the first time that we've got both governments and tech companies coming together. That means that when we're talking about algorithms, it's going to be the beginning of the conversation, not the end of one. And so let's start that. There will be, of course, those who will be pushing to make sure that they maintain the commercial sensitivity. We don't need to know their trade secrets, but we do need to know what the impacts might be on our societies around algorithm use.
We know that companies and radicalisation, you were saying governments would commit to look at it, but would companies themselves?
Yeah, when I talk about the call to action is a starting point. It's an action plan, but it will be up to us to make sure that we continue to see accountability. We continue to see steps being taken both by governments and by tech companies beyond the call to action that we'll be endorsing in the next couple of days. And again, as I say, things like algorithms, there are high expectations around what needs to change. At the moment, though, the fact that we're just even starting to have that conversation, I think, is a significant step.
How much have you learnt about...
Did that surprise you when you learnt about the extent to which people are trying to kind of mask their identities and those things?
And that's been one of the issues, of course, making sure that the research continues and that the knowledge base to make sure that tech companies and governments are mindful of where that coded language is being used. Because again, as I've said, there has been a bit of a traditional approach, an approach to terrorism that would not necessarily have picked up the form of terrorism, the ideology that New Zealand has experienced on the 15th of March, and that was white supremacy, white nationalism.
A lot of language they use.
Look, I will always see social media as being a tool that can be used in a really positive way. The fact that across New Zealand communities were able to join together pretty spontaneously and organically was in large part because they were connected to one another. It can be used as a tool for good. Unfortunately, we've seen it be used as a tool for hate as well. So the challenge for us will be, how do we maintain people's free and secure access whilst trying to prevent in the future the harm that we've seen. But we will constantly have both in mind.
Just last couple of questions.
Because I think Ireland will be very welcoming. Not that you can, but to your point.